Hi everyone, welcome to GTCoding. In this video, you will learn how to code in HTML. If you want to become a web developer, the first thing you need to know is HTML, because everything you see on a website is basically HTML. It may have different server-side languages, but whatever is displayed on your screen is basically HTML. So this video is a crash course on HTML. So let's get started. Now HTML is called a markup language. It is not a programming language because it doesn't have any logic in it. We cannot write any if statements or loops inside HTML. So whatever we type in our HTML file will be displayed on the screen. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's basically the skeleton of any website. Once you have your HTML written, you can style it using CSS, which is Cascading Style Sheet. I'm not gonna get into the history of HTML and all, but just know that the latest version of HTML is HTML5, and we'll be using HTML5 in this video. So let's see how HTML works. The work of HTML is to tell the browser what to display on the screen and also how to display them. HTML contains tags which tell the browser how to display the content. For example, if you have an image, we have a tag in HTML called img. When you write this tag, the browser doesn't display the source link, but it displays the actual image. And if you want to type a heading, you have a tag called h1, and when you type something inside h1, then the text will be large and bold font weighted. So to write HTML, you need to have two things. One is a code editor and the other is a browser. We already have a browser in our computer, but make sure that you install Chrome or Firefox, which is mostly recommended for web development, and try to install the latest version of these browsers. Now once you have the latest browser, you need to have a code editor to write your HTML content. There are a lot of code editors like VS Code, Sublime Text, Brackets, Atom, and so on. In this video, we'll be using Visual Studio Code. So just type VS Code in Google and go to this first link over here, code.visualstudio.com, and just click on download and install for your system. Now let's see how to create an HTML file. So here in my E drive, I have a folder called HTML crash course. You can name it anything you want. So I'll just right click over here and click on open with code. Now here we can see our HTML crash course folder is opened in our VS Code, and we can go ahead and create our HTML files over here. So to create an HTML file, just go over here and click on new file, or you can also go to file and click on new file, and then you can name it anything you want, but the file extension should be HTML. So we'll just name the file index.html. Index.html is a specific file name which is used by most web servers to be displayed as the home page of a website. Now let's type something over here. We'll type hello from index.html and we'll save our file. Now if you go to the folder, we can see that we have an HTML file and it has this browser icon. And if you go ahead and open this, we see that it opens in a browser and we have this text over here. So this is how you create and display an HTML file. Now if you make some changes over here, like for example, we'll change this to hello world, and when we save it, we cannot see the changes over here right away. We have to refresh our browser. So let's refresh our page, and here we can see the changes. Now let's start exploring tags in HTML. So just delete this, and first of all we'll take a look at a tag called heading. So we have headings from 1 through 6. So to create a heading, you have to type less than h1 and greater than, and then you have this closing tag over here. So whatever you type inside this h1 tag will be treated as a heading. So let's just type heading 1 over here, and if we save this and if we refresh our page, we can see that we have this heading 1 displayed over here. Now we have two types of tags in HTML. The first one is a container tag, like this h1 over here. So when we have a container tag, we'll have the tag in angle brackets, and then we close the tag by typing less than / and the name of the tag and greater than. So this is how you write a container tag. For a self-closing tag, you don't have to have this second part over here, just you can close it right here. So add a / over here, and this is how a self-closing tag is written. So we have heading tags ranging from h1 to h6. So let's just copy this a few more times, and we'll just change this to h2, and we'll change it in the ending as well, and we'll also change the content and we'll change this to h2. And now if you refresh our page, we can see we have the heading 1 and then we have the heading 2, which is a bit smaller. So let's change all these headings. Alright, now if we refresh our page, here we can see all the headings ranging from h1 to h6. So this is how you write heading tags in HTML. Now the next tag we will look at is called the paragraph tag. So whenever you want to write a paragraph, you can use this paragraph tag. To create a paragraph tag, you have to type less than p greater than, and it is also a container tag, so you need to have this closing tag over here. So we can type something over here like this is a paragraph, and if I refresh this page, we can see this is a paragraph printed over here. So let's create a couple of paragraphs and see how it looks. So in VS Code you have this option of printing some lorem ipsum text. So if you want to print some placeholder text, you can just type lorem and then type the number of characters you want. So let's say 100, and if I press on tab, we see this huge paragraph displayed over here. And we'll just copy this and we'll paste it a couple more times, and if I refresh my page, we can see these 3 paragraphs are displayed over here. So this is how you write a paragraph tag in HTML. And now we'll create a basic HTML5 structure for our web page. So the first line in an HTML5 document should be doc type HTML. So we have to type less than exclamation doc type and then type HTML over here. So this tells the browser that this is an HTML5 document, and everything you write inside an HTML should be inside the HTML tag. It is also a container tag, so we'll just type HTML and we have this closing tag over here. And then we have 2 sections inside HTML. One is the head section and the other is the body section. So we will type head over here. It is also a container tag. And then we have a body section, so we'll type body over here, and whatever you type inside the body section will be displayed over here on our browser. And this head section is for the metadata. So for example, if you type title, which is the tag used to display some text on this browser tab. So here if you type learning HTML, and if I save this and if I refresh my page, notice this html.index text over here, and if I refresh, we can see it changes to learning HTML. So in this way you can change the title of your website. We have a lot of tags which you can use inside the head section. We'll just add one more tag which is called meta, and in our tags we can also have attributes. So we'll set an attribute to this meta tag. The attribute is called char set, and we'll set it to UTF-8, and this is a self-closing tag, so you can just close it right here. Now whatever you type inside the body section will be displayed on your browser. So we'll just type a heading over here, so h1, and we will type introduction. So if you refresh our page, we can see this heading, and whatever you write inside the head section will not be displayed over here. It is just the meta information, and whatever you type inside the body section will be displayed on our page. Now in VS Code we have the option of writing this whole HTML5 structure quickly. So if you just delete this, and if you press exclamation and press tab, we can see we have this whole HTML5 structure. So whenever you start with a new HTML file, you can use this shortcut exclamation and tab. So let's just change this title back to learning HTML. Now there's one more thing you can do with VS Code. So if you type something over here, every time we make some changes to our HTML file, we have to refresh our browser. So if you refresh, we can see our changes are displayed on the browser. But if you want to automate this task, you have an extension in VS Code. So just click on this extensions icon over here and search for live server, and you can find this extension from Ritvik Day. Just go ahead and install this live server extension, and then what you can do is right click on your HTML document and click on open with live server, and here we can see our file is opened over here. Now whenever we go over here and make some changes, for example we will add a paragraph, and when we save our changes in VS Code, the browser will be automatically refreshed. So this can save you a lot of time. Now let's go ahead and delete this whole body content from here. So one thing you can do with HTML is you can nest one tag inside another. So for example, if you have a paragraph tag, we'll just type something over here. So we have this paragraph right here. Let me just zoom it a little. So we have this paragraph right here, and let's say we want to make this critical word bold. So we can use a tag called strong. So I'll just type strong, and we'll copy this ending part from here and place it after critical. And now if we save our file, we can see that the critical word is now bold. So this is how you nest one tag inside another. Now we have a lot of tags for text. So if you just change the strong to M for emphasis, and if I save this, we can see it becomes italic. And if I just change this to mark for marked, we can see we have this word marked over here. In the same way, you also have underlined. So for underline, you have to type ins. So we have this underline over here. Now for strike through, you have to type del. We also have tags for superscript and subscript. So if you type sub over here, we can see it becomes a subscript, and if you type sup, it becomes a superscript. So these are all the different tags you can use with text. Now let's see how to write text on a new line in HTML. So I'll just delete this from here, and if you just type this is the first line and this is the second line, and if I save this, we can see everything is displayed on just one line. So HTML doesn't consider line breaks, and it doesn't even consider spaces more than one. So if we have a lot of spaces over here, and if I save this file, we can see that it just goes back over here. So even if you have a lot of spaces, it just reduces to one space, and it doesn't recognize line breaks. So for that, we have a tag in HTML called BR, which is for line break. So this is a self-closing tag. So we can just type BR and close it right here. Now in HTML5, you don't have to have a / to close a self-closing tag. You can just type it like this. So now if I save this, we can see this is the first line and this is the second line. So if we add a couple of more breaks, we can see we have these line breaks over here. So this is how you have line breaks in HTML. Now if you want to have a horizontal line over here, then you can replace this with HR, which is horizontal rule, and if I save this, we can see this horizontal line over here. Now let's look at how to insert images inside our HTML file. So let's just delete these two lines of code, And in my project folder I have copied some images in the img folder over here. So this is the img folder that I created, and I have copied 2 images right here. These are the 2 images. So we're going to insert these images inside our HTML. So here we will type img. So this is a self-closing tag. In the img tag you need to use an attribute called src to tell the browser which image to load. So we'll type src equals, and here we will give the path of the image. So it is in the img folder, and we will display the first image. So we'll just click over here, and if I save this, we can see our image is displayed on our browser. So it has a very large size for now. So let's go ahead and add another attribute called width, and we will set it to 100%. And here we can see our image is 100% of the browser width. Now you should set the height and the width of the image in your CSS file, but right now since we are not using CSS, we'll just set the width over here. And instead of percentage, if you want to have pixel sizes, you can enter pixels over here. So if you type px, it will have a width of 100 pixels. So that's basically how you display images. And we have one more attribute in the img tag, that is called alt, and here we can type some text which will be displayed if the image is not loaded for some reason. So here we will type keyboard. Now just set this source to some garbage value, and if I save this, we can see that the image is not displayed, but this alternate text is displayed over here. So let's change this back to image 1. Now that's all we need to know about images. So let's delete this line of code, and now we'll take a look at how to go from one page to another in HTML. So for that, first of all, we need to create one more page. So we'll go to our file explorer, and here we'll create one more new file, and we'll name it about.html. And here we will type the basic HTML5 boilerplate. So in VS Code, just press exclamation and tab, and we'll set the title to about us, and in the body here we will type about us, and we'll also have a placeholder paragraph of 40 characters. Alright, so we'll go to our index.html file, and here we will type home, and then here we will type go to the about page. Now to make this text a link to go to the about page, we have to use the anchor tag. So to create an anchor tag, you have to type a, and we will just end this tag after the about page. And then we need to have an attribute called href. So we'll type href, and here we have to set the name of the page. So we'll set it to about.html. We can see that about page is a link now. So now if I click on about page, we can see it takes us to the about page. Now we'll just copy this line of code from here, and we'll paste it in the about page also. And here we will type go to the home page, and here we will type index.html. So now if we click on home page, we go to the home page, and if we click on about page, we go to the about page. So that's basically how you create links in HTML. You can also create links for external websites. So if you type go to, and we'll create an anchor tag. In VS Code, to write a tag, you have to just type the name of the tag and press tab, and we'll get all the required attributes and all. And in the href, we can type the name of the website that we want to go to. So we will type https google.com, and inside the anchor tag here we will type Google. So now if I click on this link, we can see that we are on the Google homepage. Now let's take a look at what are divisions in HTML. So let's delete these 2 lines of code. A division is basically a container for something. It is a commonly used tag in HTML. For example, if you have two testimonials which contain a heading and a paragraph each, then you can type the following code. We can wrap both those things inside a division. So here, if we have a heading, and we'll just type a name over here, and then we will have a paragraph. Now this whole thing here is a testimonial, so we can wrap that inside a division. So we'll just type div, and we'll end it right here, and then we can create another testimonial by just having the same division and just changing the value right here. Divisions are block level tags, which means that it stretches to the width of the window. So if we have this division over here, then we cannot have another division on the right of it. It will stretch to the whole width of the browser window. That's the case with heading and paragraph elements as well. So if you have one more heading right here, and if we type hello over here, then we can see that it's displayed on a new line. But there are also inline elements. Image is an example of inline element. So if we have an image, source of image 1, we'll just set the width to 100 pixels. Now if we just copy this line of code, and we will select the second image, we can see that the second image is right next to the first image, so it doesn't take up the whole width of the browser window. Divisions are mostly used by giving it a class name or an ID. So here we can type class testimonial, and we'll just copy this from here, and we'll also paste it in the second division. Now what we can do is use CSS and give some specific styling to these divisions. So I'll just add some CSS right here. You don't have to do this. I'll just show you a demo of what divisions can do. So here we will type style, and in here we can type CSS. So to access this testimonial, you have to type dot testimonial, and here you can add your styles. So we'll just set a background color of light blue, and here we can see we have this background color for both these divisions because we have set the class name for both these divisions. So now whenever we want to create a testimonial, we just have to set the division class name to testimonial. So here you can see the third testimonial. We'll just change the name, and now if we remove this class from here, we can see that our background color disappears. So divisions are mostly used with class names or IDs, which can give it a specific styling. So that's basically it about divisions. Let's just delete these lines of code over here. Now let's talk about span. Span is also used as a container, but the difference is that it is used for small areas of the content. Like if you want to separate a specific word from a sentence. So let's see an example of where you can use span. Here instead of home, we will type GTCoding. Now I just want to have G and T with red color, and coding will be in black color. So for that we can use span. So we'll just create a span over here, and we will close the span after GT. Now here we can add an inline style. So if you type style equals color red, and if I save this, we can see that G and T are red and coding is black. So span is basically used for inline content, and div is used for block level content. Now let's see how to create lists in HTML. So just delete this style from here, we don't need it now. Now there are three types of lists in HTML. Unordered list, which is most commonly used, and then we have ordered list and also description list. So first of all, we'll create an unordered list. So to create an unordered list, you have to type UL, which is for unordered list, and inside the UL tag we have to have list items. So for that we have to type li, and here we can type anything we want. So we'll just create an unordered list of programming languages. So we'll type JavaScript, And we'll just copy this line of code a couple more times, and Python, C#, and C++. So if I save this, we can see we have this unordered list right here. Now in the same way, we can also create ordered lists. So we'll just copy this from here, and we'll just change this UL to OL. So here we can see we have the ordered list which starts from 1 through 4. Now we'll create a description list. So for that you have to type DL, and in that we have two things. One is the key and one is the value. So for the key we have to type DT, and we'll type something over here. And then for the value you have to type DD, so we'll type something over here. Now we'll have one more DT, and we'll type JavaScript, and then we'll have a DD for the value. So here we can type something. We can have multiple values for a key, so we'll just create one more DD. So now if I save this, we can see we have this description list. We have the HTML5, and we have this value over here, JavaScript, and these values over here. So this is how you create lists in HTML. You can also have nested lists. So just delete everything, and we'll create an unordered nested list. So here we'll type UL and LI front end and backend. Now inside this LI we can create another UL. So here we will type UL, and we'll have another LI, and we'll type HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. So if I save this, here we can see we have multi-level lists or nested lists. We'll just copy this from here, and we'll just paste it before the li ends for the backend, and here you can have something different. So that's basically everything you need to know about lists in HTML. Now let's see how to create tables in HTML. So let's go ahead and delete these lines of code. Now tables should strictly be used for tabular data in HTML. It should not be used for designing the layout of the website. Some designers used to use tables for designing the layout, but it is a bad practice, and you should do all the layout designing in CSS. So let's see how to create this table. So first of all, you need to use the tag called table. Inside the table you have two container tags. So one is thead and the other tag is tbody. To create a row in tables, you have to use the tag called tr, and for the columns inside heading you have to type th, and here we will type some headings, and we'll just copy this, and here we will type designation. So here are the headings of our table. Now for the tbody you have almost the same structure, so we'll just copy this from here and we'll paste it over here. Now instead of th we have to type td, which is table data. So we'll select all the th and we'll type td over here, and here we can fill in the data that we want. So this is one row of our tbody. Now we can just copy this and create all our rows. So this is basically how we create tables in HTML. Now you can go ahead and add styling to this table and make it look awesome. To add a comment inside HTML, what you have to do is just type less than exclamation dash dash, and here you can type your comment. So we'll type table heading ends. Now if I save this, we can see that this comment doesn't get displayed on our page. It is there just for the designers. So we'll just copy this comment, and here we will type table body ends. So if you have a lot of code in your web page, it's a good idea to add comments. Now let's see how to add forms inside HTML. So I'll just delete this code. The form tag is used to create forms in HTML. You can create registration forms, login forms, contact forms, and so on. So let's go ahead and type form, and here we can see we have an attribute called action. So this is where our form will be redirected to. So if we add some file like process.php, then when we submit this form, this page will be redirected to process.php. But for now, let's just leave it blank. So inside our form, we will create some form elements. We will design a simple registration form. Now let's go ahead and add a field for username. So we'll type input, which is the tag used to create input fields. So we'll just press tab, and we have this attribute called type. So there are various types of inputs. So for this input, we'll keep it as text, and we'll also add a placeholder, and we'll set the placeholder to username. And if I save this, we can see we have this input field, and we also have this placeholder username, and we can type anything we want over here. Now let's create another input field for email. So we'll type input, and for the type we will set it as email, and we will set the placeholder to email. Now if we just zoom out our page, we can see that our text fields are side by side. This means that the input tag is not block level, it is inline. So here we will add a line break. Let me just zoom this again. Now we will add one more line break, and we will create a field for password input, and the type will be password, and the placeholder will be password, and then a line break and one more input for password, and we'll set the placeholder as confirm password. Now we also need to have a submit button. So we'll type input, and the type will be submit, and we'll set a value of register. We'll also add a line break over here. We can see we have these input fields, and we also have this register button. So for the username, we can type anything we want, and for the email, if we type anything other than a valid email, and if we click on register, we can see that it says that the email is invalid. And for the password, we can see that we have these dots over here instead of displaying the actual text. So that's basically how you create a basic form. Now we do have a lot of input types, like input type of file. Here we can choose a file from our system, and then we also have input type of color. So here we can choose the colors, and then we also have input type of date. Now let's see how to create radio buttons for our form. So let's go ahead, and here we'll create an input with a type of radio, and we'll add a line break over here. So here we can see our radio button. We can click it, and we can check the radio button. Now we can also have a label for our radio buttons. So for the first one, we will create a label, and in for we have to type the ID of our radio button. So we'll create an ID over here. So ID equals backend, and we'll type backend over here, and inside the label here we will type backend. Now even if we click on this label, our radio button will activate. Now let's create two more of these radio buttons, and we'll change this to front end. And finally we'll change this to full stack. We'll change this to full stack, and this label to full stack. So here we can see our radio buttons, and if I click on backend, we can see that it gets selected. But if I click on front end, it also gets selected, and we can select all three of these at once. We don't want that. We want to select only one item at a time. So here we have to add one more attribute called name, and we have to set the same name for all these three radio buttons. So we'll name it developers, and we'll just copy this from here, and we'll paste it over here and here. So now if I click on this, we can see that backend gets selected, and if I click on front end, backend gets deselected, and we can select one at a time. Now if you want backend to be selected by default when the page loads, then you can add one attribute called checked. And now if I save this, we can see that backend gets selected by default when we load the page. Alright, now let's see how to create drop-down lists in HTML. So for that you have to use a tag called select, and we'll just delete the name and ID for now because we're not going to send any data to the server. We'll just design our page. So in select we have to have options, so we'll type option, and we have to provide values for this, but for now we'll just delete it because we are not sending this to any database. So we'll just add some values over here. We'll also add a line break. Now here we can see we have our drop down list. If we click on this, we can see we get all these items, and if I click on any of them, that gets selected. So this is how you create drop down lists in a form. So that's basically it for forms in HTML. So let's go ahead and delete this whole form from here. Now there are some semantic tags that have been introduced in HTML5, which helps the browser better understand the content of the page. Let's take a look at some of the common ones. The first one is the header tag. The header tag is used to represent any header in your web page. You can have multiple headers in your web page if you want. And then the next one is the footer tag. The footer tag is used to represent the footer in your web page. And just like the header tags, you can have multiple footer tags. And the next tag is called section. So this tag is used to represent a specific section in your web page. And again, you can have multiple sections in your web page. And then we have another tag called main. The main tag is used to define the main or the most important part of your web page. It can contain articles, sections, and more. The next tag is called nav. The nav tag is used to represent navigation menus on your web page. Navigation menus are usually written in unordered lists. So you can create an unordered list and an anchor tag inside that, and you can type the path over here, and you can have navigation links like this. So the nav tag is used to represent navigation menus in your web page. Then we have the article tag, which is used for article contents in your web page, and it usually has a large amount of text inside it. And then we have the aside tag, which is used for sidebars in your web page. Here's an image that describes how some of these semantic tags are used in a typical web page. It's up to you to decide which tags should be placed where, and there's no strict rule as to which tag should be used where, but it's up to you as a designer to use the tags appropriately. Now let's see how to add audio in our web page. So let's delete this aside from here, and to add an audio file inside your HTML, you have to use the audio tag. So let's go ahead and type audio, and inside the audio tag you have to have a tag called source, and here we can add an attribute called src, and here we can give the path of our audio file. So if I go to my file browser, here we can see I have a folder called audio, and I have these two files. These are both the same files, just different file types. So let's go ahead and type audio guitar.mp3. So this is our audio file, and then we also have to set a type for our audio. So for the type we have to type audio /mpeg. Now we have added our audio file to this web page. Now to see our file over here, we have to have an attribute called controls, and if I save this, we can see our audio file over here, and if I click on play, so we can also control the volume over here, and we can play and pause the audio. So this is basically how you add audio into your web page. Now it is recommended that you add multiple source tags to your audio tag, so that if one of these doesn't work, the other one will work. So let's add one more source, and we will add our guitar.wav file, and we'll change this type to wave. And in our web page it will just show one file. So if one of these doesn't work, then the other one will be displayed over here. Now in our audio tag we can have a text which will be displayed if the audio is not supported by the browser. So here we can type audio tag is not supported in this browser. So this text will only be displayed if the audio tag is not supported by the browser. Now we have different attributes for the audio tag. We can have an attribute called autoplay. So when we save this file, the audio autoplays when the page is loaded. And then we also have another option called loop. So now if I refresh my page, the audio will start when the browser loads, and it will loop. Once the audio reaches the end, it will play again. So let's save our page. Now let's see how to add video in our web page. So video is almost the same as the audio tag. So let's replace audio with video, and we'll change this here as well. And we'll leave these controls and autoplay right here. And in my file browser I have a folder called video, and in that I have an MP4 file. So let's delete one of these, and for the source we will say video/lake.mp4, and for the type we'll set it to video/mp4. So let's go ahead and save this file and see what we get. We can see that the video is playing, but it has a huge height and width. So let's change the width. So here we can type width equals 100%, and if I save this, we can see our video is playing, and the width is 100%. And we have all the controls. We can pause the video, we can play the video, we can decrease or increase the volume, we can play it on full screen. Now there are a lot of attributes for video as well, like loop, muted, height, width controls, and all this. You can go ahead and search for the attributes on the internet, and you'll get a list of all the attributes. So that's it for this video. With the knowledge from this video, you can write markup for any website that you want. Now the next thing to do is start learning CSS for making the web page look the way you want it to look. And you can find a lot of design tutorials on my channel. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below, and subscribe to this channel to get the latest updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.